Excellent. Oh my God. What a what an amazing thing. I'm kind of over full right now, actually. I feel just full. There was so much love today. There was so much openness today. There was so much sincerity today. It was just phenomenal. So here comes Stephen. An
That's
amazing
what it's
thing.
all about, Swami. That's
That's
what
it. That's
it's
it.
all.
You get that energy going. Ma just shows her
Yep.
presence, and everybody just is right there with it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we are in my book. We're on page 538. It's I think it's M and let me see here. M at Dakshineshwar 1. Toward the end, we've got 21 pages on my book to the end of the chapter. And the beginning sentence of the verse is once a wicked man. But the story has been, he's been asked the question by M. If you remember from last week, he was asking, is there a path to the realization of God without form, not through a deity? And the master is saying, yes, there is a path that does that, but it's very difficult, he says. And he was just saying that one cannot realize God without completely renouncing lust and greed, and that if there's even a trace of worldliness in the mind, that one cannot realize God through that path. And so that's why he was talking about that. And I'm watching everyone. I won't name names, but I'm watching everyone. So once a wicked man beat into unconsciousness a monk who lived in a monastery. On regaining consciousness, he was asked by his friend, "Who is feeding you milk?" The monk said, "He who beat me is now feeding me." Here comes Ritu. And M says, "Yes, I know that story. Master, it is not enough to know it. One must assimilate its meaning. It is the thought of worldly objects that prevents the mind from going into samadhi." Oh, that's a very good point right there. So if you have the thought of worldly objects, and of course all objects in that sense would be worldly, but worldly objects, things that distract you from the divine, that's why we're not in samadhi. That's why we can't enjoy samadhi, is because we can't stop thinking about things. And then these teachings that we have, it's a frustration of mine that I've heard these things for 25 years and living in a monastery for that long, and I've heard all the great swamis, and read the books, and it's frustrating that that you can't go over that edge, that you can't break free. And Thakur's really speaking that here, that it's not a matter of knowing these things. It's a matter of assimilating these things, that they become part and parcel of the self, of your world, that they affect who you are, how you act. That you've taken them in through your focus, through your concentration, and through your contemplation, they've dropped their roots down, and they've started drawing things together to change the way that you are motivated, to change the way that you're inspired, to change the way that you think about the world around you and the people around you. But that you have to spend that quiet, sincere, and earnest time with the scriptures. It doesn't happen as we talk all the time. It doesn't happen in the mind. It's not a matter of understanding things. It's not a matter of being able to make your philosophical argument make sense. It really isn't in the mind at all. It's got to become it's got to be part of the whole. It's got to be part of what you are. You have to naturally then begin to exude these truths in your being. So it is the thought of worldly objects that prevents the mind from going into samadhi. One becomes established in samadhi when one is completely rid of worldliness. It is possible for me to give up the body in samadhi, but I have a slight desire to enjoy the love of God and the company of his devotees. Therefore, I pay a little attention to my body. Listen to that statement. He could leave the body at any time. You know, he was closer to God than he was to the world. Well, probably from our perspective, I could say that that was true. From his perspective, he saw the oneness in them, but he was holding on to that desire to see the play. He says here, you know, I have a slight desire to enjoy the love of God and the company of his devotees. Those are his objects that actually keep him embodied, that keep him from letting go of the illusion. Therefore, I pay a little attention to my body. I mean, what an amazing ideal. What an amazing ideal, just to be that free of the cage, that free that at any moment, you know, just as a matter of fact, that you could go home now, you could just leave the body now, that it would be no consequence to you. You know, and the only reason you don't is because you enjoy the love of God and the company of the devotees, you know, which are both loves that certainly are easy to understand. But to have those be the only two things that are holding you here is an immense purity. I can't, that's astonishing to me. There is another kind of samadhi called unmana samadhi. One attains it by suddenly gathering the dispersed mind. You understand what that is, don't you? M. Yes, sir. Master. Yes. It is the sudden withdrawal of the dispersed mind to the ideal. But that samadhi does not last long. Worldly thoughts intrude and destroy it. The yogi slips down from his yoga. So that's fascinating. There is a samadhi where one comes back. It doesn't last very long. The sudden withdrawal of the dispersed mind. So kind of just a happening. You have a moment's enthrallment with the beloved, and but you haven't done the discipline yet. You know, you haven't done you haven't practiced the yamas and niyamas so that you have that ability to hold what's been given to you. And so it slips back in. It pulls you back out of your samadhi. And what a loss that would be. Can you imagine being in that divine ecstasy and then being pulled out by worldly thoughts? And once you've lost that samadhi, to stand there with your worldly thoughts and be like, what? You would immediately, all you'd want to do is get it back, you know, to let go again. At Karmarpur, I have seen the mongoose living in its hole up in the wall. It feels snug there. People sometimes tie a brick to its tail, and then the pull of the brick makes it come out of its hole. Every time the mongoose tries to be comfortable inside its hole, it has to come out because of the pull of the brick. Such is the effect of brooding on worldly objects, that it makes the yogi stray from the path of yoga. You know, this is one of those things to assimilate. You know, that this idea here, it's like we make all of this effort trying to stay in our home, you know, trying to find our intimacy with God, trying to find our refuge, trying to find that inner peace. And we climb into the hole, but it's our constant returning to our pleasures, to our enjoyments. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then, you know, a Thursday night, I'll go get a margarita with my friends. You know, it's like, oh yes, I'm going to go on a retreat. And then after my retreat, I'm going to my cousin's wedding, and then we're going on a cruise. You know, it's like, we don't understand that all those things are bricks that are tied to our tail, that are yanking us out of the potential of our spiritual practice, you know? And so we work so hard on our spiritual practice, we wonder why we don't get anywhere. It's because we're pulling both directions at the same time. We're feeding a little bit of our worldliness, and we're feeding a little bit of our spirituality. A little bit for you, you know, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of television, a little bit of play, or a little bit of this, and then some reading and some meditation and maybe a retreat or two. And as you know, we don't, it's not that that's right or wrong. It's not a matter of thinking of it in those terms. Everything is lawful. You're allowed to do whatever you want. It's just that not everything is helpful, right? So don't look at like, oh, seeing those things as wrong and then getting a sort of compulsive feeling around them, because you don't want them to be wrong, or you don't like thinking that way or whatever. It's not that. It's that they're not helpful, and they're not helpful to what? To you. You're not you're spending your time doing your practices to keep yourself in a neutral space, because the other stuff that you're not letting go of is not letting you go forward, not letting you rise into your nature. And so be aware of that, bring that into your awareness, so that as you live, purity becomes your desire, because all you need is just a taste, just a touch of that divine love, just a moment in that presence. And the world pales to that, because the world, you're constantly having to work and work and work. You go to a party and you have to be so nice to everybody. You have to work and stay social and do all of this stuff and endure all of this nonsense. For what? What are you getting from that? Go to mother, and consistently go to mother, consistently stay in that practice, and minimize these brooding on these worldly pleasures, these worldly funds that we have, that in our minds are harmless, because in a sense they are. There's nothing wrong with those simple things, going and having a night out with friends, or going to a party, or having one drink, or something like that. But you didn't hear that from me. But that it's not that these are problems as such. It's that they are withholding from you the very thing you want the most. They're withholding from you the very purpose of your life, the very reason that you came to this incarnation, this planet, the whole reason that you took on this birth. These things are holding you back, and they don't have to. You can let go of them. Just start facing the facts that they're not giving you what you want. Yes, they're temporary pleasures. Yes, they're very nice, but they always come to an end. They're always coming to an end. And when you get older, and you become, less mobile, you're going to have all those memories that are going to still be brooding in your mind, and still keeping you from finding that center, even as you approach the very day of your departure. And they'll fill you with fear, and they'll fill you with doubt. And there's no need for that. You're made for freedom. You were constructed for liberation. You were made to express and to experience an unconditioned and infinite love. And so brooding on these objects, brooding on these temporary things that just tickle us every now and then, and just give a moment's pleasure, but then leave us with nothing, they're not worth it, is what Thakur is saying here. Yeah. He says, worldly people may now and then experience samadhi. The lotus blooms, no doubt, when the sun is up, but its petals close again when the sun is covered by a cloud. Worldly thought is that cloud, right? So we can't, when we nurture both sides, we're enjoying the sun on one hand, but then we're bringing in the clouds with the other hand. Isn't it possible to develop both jnana and bhakti by the practice of spiritual discipline? Master, through the path of bhakti, a man may attain them both. If it is necessary, God gives him the knowledge of Brahman. But a highly qualified aspirant may develop both jnana and bhakti at the same time. Such is the case with the Ishvarakotis, Chaitanya, for example. But the case of ordinary devotees is different. Okay, this is where he's talking about me and maybe you. Ordinary devotees. He says there are 5 kinds of light: the light of a lamp, the light of various kinds of fire, the light of the moon, the light of the sun, and lastly, the combined light of the sun and the moon. Bhakti is the light of the moon, and jnana is the light of the sun. Sometimes it is seen that the sun has hardly set when the moon rises in the sky. In an incarnation of God, one sees at the same time the sun of knowledge and the moon of love. Can everyone, by the mere wish, develop knowledge and love at the same time? It depends on the person. One bamboo is more hollow than another. Is it possible for all to comprehend the nature of God? Can a one-seer pot hold 5 seers of milk? But what about the grace of God? Through his grace, a camel can pass through the eye of a needle. Master, but is it possible to obtain God's grace just like that? A beggar may get a penny if he asks for it, but suppose he asks you right off for his full train fare. How about that? Stood silent. The master, too, remained silent. Suddenly he said, yes, it is true. Through the grace of God, some may get both jnana and bhakti. Saluted the master and went back to the bell tree. So it's quite a conversation there that you can have both. You can have the knowledge of Brahman and the knowledge of and the knowledge of bhakti, that relationship. So you can have a sense of that oneness, and you can have the sense of the enjoyment of the devotee of his beloved, of his divine beloved. And to me, that seems like the perfect combination, that you get the satisfaction of the highest truth, but then you get to enjoy it. You get to enjoy it. So you know that you and God are one, but you hold on to that ego, just like Thakur is doing, to enjoy that love, to enjoy that presence. At midday, finding that M had not yet returned, Sri Ramakrishna started toward the bell tree, but on reaching the Panchavati, he met M carrying his prayer carpet and water jug. M saluted the master. Sri Ramakrishna said to M, I was coming to look for you. Because of your delay, I thought you might have scaled the wall and run away. I watched your eyes this morning and felt apprehensive lest you should go away like Narayan Shastri. Then I said to myself, no, he won't run away. He thinks a great deal before doing anything. That same night, the master talked to M, Rakal, Latu, Harish, and a few other devotees. A master to M. Some people give a metaphysical interpretation of the Vrindavan episode of Sri Krishna's life. What do you say about it? Well, there are various opinions. What if there are? You have told us the story of the Bhishma Deva's weeping on his bed of arrows because he could not understand anything of God's ways. Again, you have told us that Hanuman used to say, I don't know anything about the day of the week, the position of the stars, and so forth. I only meditate on Rama. Further, you have said to us that in the last analysis, there are 2 things only, Brahman and its power. You have also told that after the attainment of Brahma Jnana, a man realizes these 2 to be one, and the one that has no 2. Master, yes, that is true. Your ideal is to reach the goal. You may reach it by going either through a thorny forest or along a good road. Diverse opinions certainly exist. Nangta used to say that the monks could not be feasted because of the diversity of their views. Once a feast was arranged for the sannyasis. Monks belonging to many sects were invited. Everyone claimed that his sect should be fed first, but no conclusion could be arrived at. At last, they all went away and the food had to be given to prostitutes. That could be used to describe the way all of the world's religions are interacting with each other. All of us think we should be first. And here, look who's going to win in the end. Why the prostitutes? Well, because at least they had the sincerity and the earnest and presence of mind to not demand to be first. They didn't have any of that egoism, that sense of I'm the important, I'm the good, I'm the right. Right? And so they all lost out. All of the sannyasins, all of the people that we point at as being holy, all the people that we point at being spiritual, They lost out because they had turned their spirituality into egoism. They had become identified with being right and being the only and being the best and being the most, and then had to go and argue with all of the other religions, all of the other monks, about the same, and none of them get fed. And what's left goes to the prostitutes. I find that such a beautiful summary to me, and such a careful warning to us. Be careful lest your egoism attach to your practice, attaches to your philosophy, attaches to you identify with these things. Our job in our practice is nothingness. The highest thing we can reach is an absolute surrender, an absolute defeat in the face of the world, in the face of our dilemma. There is no one to be recognized who thinks they're going to be recognized. It's a complete loss. It's a complete surrender. It's a complete laying down. Take refuge in God, because there's nothing here. There is nothing good about the ego, my ego self, myself with a name. M. Totapuri was indeed a great soul, Master, but Hazra says he was an ordinary man. There's no use in discussing these things. Everyone says that his watch alone gives the correct time. You see, Narayan Shastri developed a spirit of intense renunciation. He was a great scholar. He gave up his wife and went away. A man attains yoga when he completely effaces lust and greed, woman and gold, from his mind. With some, the characteristics of the yogi are well marked. I have to tell you something of the 6 centers. The mind of the yogi passes through these. He realizes God through his grace. Have you heard of the 6 centers? There are 7 planes of the Vedanta, Master, not the Vedanta, but the Vedas. Do you know the 6 centers, what they're like? They are the lotuses in the subtle body. The yogis see them. They're like the fruits and leaves of a wax tree. M. Yes, sir. The yogis can perceive them. I have read that there is a kind of glass through which a tiny object looks very big. Likewise, through yoga, one can see these subtle lotuses. Following Sri Ramakrishna's direction, M spent the night in the hut in the Panchavati. In the early hours of the morning, he was singing alone. I am without the least benefit of prayer and austerity, O Lord. I am the lowliest of the lowly. Make me pure with your hallowed touch. One by one, I pass my days in hope of reaching your lotus feet. But you, alas, I have not found. Suddenly, M glanced toward the window and saw the master standing there. Sri Ramakrishna's eyes became heavy with tears as M sang the line, I am the lowliest of the lowly. Make me pure with your hallowed touch. M sang again, I shall put on the ochre robe and earrings made of conch shell. Thus, in the garb of a yogini, from place to place I shall wander, till I have found my cruel Hari. M saw that the master was walking with Rakal. This beautiful ideal, when you come to know your nothingness, and there's nothing but freedom in it. Because egoism has caused the shame, egoism has caused the fear, egoism has caused the resentment. Egoism is what made you grab name and fame, an idea that I could be something, I can rise above these, I can be holy, I can be good, I can be pure, I can, I will, I must. And finally, when we come to a place like M singing alone in the morning twilight by the river, I am the lowliest of the lowly. I am without the merit of renunciation or prayer. I have nothing, Lord. I have nothing. And he glances up, and what is Thakur doing? He's weeping. God is weeping. Friday, December 21st, 1883. In the morning, the master and M were conversing alone under the bell tree. The master told him many secrets of spiritual discipline, exhorting to him to renounce lust and greed. He further said that the mind at times becomes one's guru. After his midday meal, the master went to the Panchavati wearing a beautiful yellow robe. 2 of the 3 Vaishnava monks were there, clad in the dress of their sect. In the afternoon, a monk belonging to the sect of Nanak arrived. He was a worshipper of the formless God. Sri Ramakrishna asked him to meditate as well on God with form. The master said to him, "Dive deep. One does not get the precious gems by merely floating on the surface. God is without form, no doubt, but he also has form. By meditating on God with form, and one speedily acquires devotion, then one can meditate on the formless God. It is like throwing a letter away after learning its contents, and then setting out to follow its instructions." It's a beautiful ideal right there, to realize God with form, to fall in love with God, to have that devotion, that beautiful peace at the thought of God, and then use that as a launching to go for God without form. Launched, following that love like a scented perfume. To find someone that has no form and just accept the perfume. Saturday, December 22nd, 1883. Recall, Harish, M, and Latu had been staying with Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar. About 9 o'clock in the morning, the master was sitting with them on the southeast veranda of his room when Balaram's father and Devendra Ghosh of Shyampur arrived. A devotee: "Sir, how does one obtain love for God?" Master: "Go forward. The king dwells beyond the 7 gates. You can see him only after passing through all of the gates. At the time of the installation of Annapurna at Chanak, I said to Dwaraka Babu, 'Large fish live in the deep water of a big lake. Throw some spiced bait into the water and the fish will come, attracted by its smell. Now and then they will make the water splash. Devotion and ecstatic love are like the spiced bait. God sports in the world as man. He incarnates himself as man, as in the case of Krishna, Rama, and Chaitanya. Once I said to Keshav, the greatest manifestation of God is in man. There are small holes in the bulk of a field where crabs and fish accumulate in the rainy season. If you want to find them, you must seek them in the holes. If you seek God, you must seek him in the incarnations. The Divine Mother of the universe manifests herself through this 3.5-cubit man. There is a song that says, 'O Mother, what a machine is this that you have made? What pranks you play with this toy 3.5 cubits high.'" Literally, you as a body mind are the plaything of this divine. That you are the sport of God, that there's really no you in there. Ultimately, that's the realization. That's the final surrender, is this need and notion of a me that's separate and apart from the whole, from the divine. But as long as we're in this state, it's still God who is sporting, because it's not like you were real and then you realized you weren't real. It's not like that. It's like you thought you were real, but you've never been real. You've never actually been there. You are just a cross-referencing of thoughts that you've collected, a bundle of ideas, a bundle of aversions and attractions that you've taken upon yourself to put a name on, to be an identity. And so you dance in funny ways because you're attached to funny things. You have unnatural beliefs about yourself, unnatural limitations, unnatural restrictions. And so you carry on, and that was never real. That was never who you were. And so realization is when you know that there is nothing there, that it is the divine alone that has experienced your life. It's the divine mother who went through your breakups. It's your divine mother who gave birth to your babies. It's your divine mother who bought your house, who took your job, who got your contracts, who enjoyed your success, who suffered through your failures. You know, you are just an imagination of all of that, thinking that it was yours, that you did it, that you were responsible, when you could never manipulate the number of variables necessary to be responsible. And so that last letting go, there is no sadness in that. It's like letting go of a used Kleenex. There's no value. There's no value in the ego self. Our only value lies in the love of God that sits as a divine principle within our heart. That's why we're valuable. That's why we're loved. That's why we're sought and taken care of. So this machine that Mother has made, what pranks you play with this toy, 3.5 cubits high. One needs spiritual practice in order to know God and to recognize divine incarnations. Big fish live in the large lake, but to see them one must throw spiced bait in the water. There is butter in milk, but one must churn the milk to get it. There is oil in mustard seed, but one must press the seed to extract the oil. So yes, there is the divine in you, but one must practice to bring out that divine reality. Devotee, has God form or is he formless? This eternal question keeps popping up. Everybody wants to know. Master, wait. First of all, you must go to Calcutta. Then only will you know where the Maydan, the Asiatic Society, and the Bengal Bank are located. Right? It's like, don't shoot above your head. What is it to you whether God is form or not form? At now, when you barely believe in either, when it's mostly make believe anyway. That's why people that always used to entertain me when I was in the monastery in San Francisco, the Lake Tahoe retreat in particular. People would ask these highfalutin questions about these, different types of samadhis and try and make a point with them, try and make an argument with them. And you just, what is the value of knowing these things? Being able to carry on a conversation, being able to write a book, or be able to understand a lecture, who cares? Do your practice, be where you are. These things will reveal themselves to you as it's necessary, as it's helpful to you. You don't need to worry and go after these high points of philosophy. This one without a second. How can the one without a second be? Who cares whether you ever understand that? You simply can't understand that. It's beyond the mind. It's beyond the mind. What does one need? One needs spiritual practice. Get to it. Stop with the high imaginings. Do the work. Spend the time in solitude. Do as much practice in a day as we can. Here, I feel Mother tapping my shoulder again. She's like, yeah, see, that's a good point you just made. Practice is what you need. That's a good idea, Swami. See, let's see it. Get in there. Let's go. Indeed, this is the way it is, and this is Maya. One needs spiritual practice in order to know God and to recognize divine incarnations. So yes, wait. First, you must go to Calcutta, and then you will know where all these different places are located. If you want to go to the Brahmin quarter of Kardaha, you must first of all go to Kardaha. Get there first, and then you can see these places. You can understand these things. Why should it not be possible to practice the discipline of the formless God? But it is very difficult to follow that path. One cannot follow it without renouncing woman in gold. There must be complete renunciation, both inner and outer. You cannot succeed in this path, which is the realization of God without form. You cannot succeed in this path if you have the slightest trace of worldliness. It is easy to worship God with form, but it is not as easy as all that. One should not discuss the discipline of the impersonal God or the path of knowledge with a bhakta, with someone who's practicing devotion. Through great effort, perhaps, he is just cultivating a little bit of devotion. You will injure it if you explain away everything as a mere dream. Someone's falling in love with Thakur, or someone's falling in love with Jesus or Buddha, and then you come and say, oh, everything's one without a second. You're really just falling in love with yourself. You're really just praying to yourself. What? Then what happens to devotion? It becomes silly. You wonder, oh, why? And it breaks and it dies. And that love, which actually was the presence of God, that love, which actually is the formless God, dissipates, dissipates because you started reasoning beyond your star, because you started taking this one without a second, which you have no idea about, which you have no understanding of, and you dismantle love, something you do understand, and something you did have an idea of. Yes.
This is what we constantly do in Vedanta. We flip back and forth.
It's true. 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 And I don't know what to say about it.
Well, I'm glad I'm imagining it, because
what's that?
I'm glad I'm not imagining it.
No, you're not imagining it. I think it's because, well, I don't know that it's a good reason, but it is true. It's that we've got all kinds of people coming, and we have to lecture to all kinds of people, and all kinds of people are in the room, and there's 4 paths, and people are on 4 paths. And so when we do this generalized teaching, you're right. We cover all those different paths. We do talk about all those different things. But I think in your practice, you can focus on the one. I think that's where he's talking more about. Most of us don't assimilate much in a lecture anyway. I talked to I won't name this Swami, but a certain Swami told me one time, because I mentioned to him that I was afraid that I was repeating myself in my lectures. And he said to me, I've been giving the same lecture over and over for 20 years and nobody has noticed yet. So I think in that sense, it doesn't really matter. This is more talking about your own personal practice and what you choose to really spend your time on and to spend your focus on. So like in your personal practice, if you're a bhakta, then stick to the bhakti scriptures and stick to the stories of the incarnations, and stick to doing your rituals, your pujas, and stick to writing your love letters on the shrine, and dancing before the image. Focus on that and give that more and more attention, and stay true in your own path, in your own practice with your own guru. I think it's more like that. It's not that that we have to change the lecture, because all that other stuff is still there. And I kind of like it in the sense that Thakur tells us, take your Advaita and tie it in the corner of your dhoti, put it in your pocket, and then go and practice your devotion. He says that way it will prevent you from becoming fanatical, and I think there's something to that. So it's not that we shouldn't know anything about them or shouldn't hear of them. It's just that we don't focus on them in our practice and in our personal path, our personal day-to-day as we go forward. But either way, there is a way of looking at both of them and having them nourish each other. And that is possible. And they started off saying that is a possibility, but it's difficult to do that. But yeah, for your own personal practice, if you're devotional, go to the devotional classes, go to the classes on the Holy Mother and on Rama and Krishna, and read the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Upanishads, when with the deities and whatnot. And it's not that those aren't real, it's not. because Thakur himself saw the Divine Mother. Thakur himself saw Shiva, Thakur himself saw Jesus and saw Buddha. So, and saw Maya even. So these things, he saw his own dark nature. He saw all these things. So there's a reality to them. It's just a level of consciousness at which they appear, at which they are real. Kabir was, oh sure. Kabir was a worshiper of the impersonal God. He did not believe in Shiva and Kali or Krishna. He used to make fun of them and say that Kali lived on the offerings of rice and bananas, and that Krishna danced like a monkey when the gopis clapped their hands. Everyone laughs. One who worships God without form perhaps sees that at first the deity with 10 arms, and then the deity with 4 arms, and then baby Krishna with 2 arms. At last he sees the indivisible light and merges into it. It is said that sages like Dattatreya and Jadabharata did not return to the relative plane after having the vision of Brahman. According to some people, Shukadeva tasted only a drop of that ocean of Brahman consciousness. He saw and heard the rumbling of the waves of that ocean, but he did not dive into it. A brahmachari once said to me, "One who goes beyond Kedar cannot keep his body alive. Likewise, a man cannot preserve his body after attaining Brahmagyana. The body drops off in 21 days. There was an infinite field beyond a high wall. 4 friends tried to find out what was beyond the wall. 3 of them, one after the other, climbed the wall, saw the field, and burst into loud laughter, and then dropped over to the other side. These 3 could not give any information about the field. Only the 4th man came back and told people about it. He is like those who retain their bodies even after attaining Brahmagyana, in order to teach others. Divine incarnations belong to this class." Parvati was born as the daughter of King Himalaya. After her birth, she revealed to the king her various divine forms. The father said, "Well, daughter, you have shown me all these forms. That's nice. But you have another aspect, which is Brahman. Please show me that." "Father," replied Parvati, "if you seek the knowledge of Brahman, then renounce the world, live in the company of holy men." But King Himalaya insisted. Thereupon Parvati revealed her Brahman form, and immediately the king fell down unconscious. All that I have just said belongs to the realm of reasoning. Brahman alone is real, and the world is illusory. That is reasoning. And everything but Brahman is like a dream. But this is an extremely difficult path. To one who follows it, even the divine play in the world becomes like a dream and appears unreal. His I also vanishes. The followers of this path do not accept the divine incarnation. It is a very difficult path. The lovers of God should not hear such reasoning. That is why God incarnates himself as a man and teaches people the path of devotion. He exhorts people to cultivate self-surrender to God. Following the path of devotion, one realizes everything through his grace, both knowledge and supreme wisdom. Right? So he's telling us, take the path of devotion, fall in love with God, fall in love with the divine. Don't worry about the reasoning. Don't worry about the philosophies. Don't worry about the things that are beyond our star at the moment. Love God, follow that path of devotion, cultivate that self-surrender to God through the love that's growing for him or her. Then one realizes everything through grace, right? Not through the pristine requirements of the path of jnana, but through the grace of your lover, through the grace of the divine. One gets both, that enjoyment of God with form and the knowledge of God without form, that one without a second. You can sit there and attain your samadhi in the enjoyment of God, and then if you want, you can merge. And we see that in Thakur, with his that practice with Totapuri when he was trying to realize Brahman, God without form. And Thakur complained to Totapuri, I keep seeing the Divine Mother. She keeps appearing in front of me. And, then Totapuri picks up that piece of glass and says, focus here, and he pressed that glass into Thakur's forehead, and Thakur took out the sword of knowledge and sliced the Divine Mother in half, and then went into a samadhi for like 6 months. They had to push milk and rice into his mouth. So we do get both. But the path is easier. The path of love is easy because both the path and the destination are the same, both composed of love. And so that's our focus. That's Thakur's recommendation to us. Cultivate your love for God. Fall in love with Thakur, or fall in love with Jesus, fall in love with Buddha, fall in love with Rama. It doesn't matter what name you give him. Fall in love with her or that. Cultivate it. Do whatever you can. Write music, sing songs, dance, do puja, sing your japam, sing the names of God. Sit there and write up songs on the fly of these beautiful deeds of Thakur, of Jesus, of Rama. Write poetry. Cultivate that love, and through that love, more easily and more quickly will come this knowledge of God, the knowledge of divine, the samadhi, that merging. If you want to merge, otherwise, just enjoy the presence. Right? We'll stop there for tonight. If there's any questions.